guys? John here.
And Sharisse.
And we're back with another Cupid's Corner segment for you guys. Cupid's Corner, if you haven't tuned in before, we always go over like tips, tricks, certain things that should help your relationship either flourish, get back to where it used to be, or just ignite that flame that you guys both want, right? So this week, we have some great topics for you guys. One thing is something that you guys can do. I guess the second thing is something you can do too as well, right?
For sure.
Okay. All right. So the first thing, let's get into it. So now that this COVID deal is calming down a little bit, I guess, in certain states.
Calm.
It's calming down, so hopefully we don't get any other spikes or any crazy stuff.
No.
The first one is visiting your partner's hometown. Mm-hmm. You can learn a lot about somebody from where they come from, honestly, really. And usually it's different parts of the country. There's different things going on, right?
Right.
So people act different, people dress different, they talk different, they eat, maybe some different foods and stuff like that. So it's always good to, see where your partner came from, especially if they're really good people and stuff like that, and they like the place where they came from. Some people don't. They're like, I came from a small town. I don't want to go back to that small town. I never said I'd go back there, but it is what it is. That's what makes you. That's where you're part of, right? Mm-hmm. So, with me and Sharisse came here when she was 5 years old to Tampa, Florida. So when I met her, it wasn't really crazy about, getting to see her hometown because I already knew the hometown, right?
Right. But you don't just get to see the hometown. Let's be realistic here. You don't go to the hometown to see just the hometown. You usually go to the hometown to be like, Well, in my scenario, I'm like, are there any lingering friends around here? Ooh. So, you just like to know what's going on. That's me personally anyway. But, as far as meet his friends, like his old school friends, from high school and stuff like that. For instance, we went up there for your... was it your 10-year?
It was 10-year reunion.
10-year, right? And I got to meet some of the people he went to military school with, which was pretty cool because, it's he went to school with these people, and military school is a little bit different than public high school. It's a little bit smaller of a group, and I'm sure that they have, really tight relationships. So it's good to hear the old school stories about John and what he did and how he did it, because those are funny stories. Oh, yeah. And don't let John tell you, because, my hometown's here in Tampa, we'll call it that. But, he's ran into people that I went to high school with, and got some, cute little stories out of it too. But it's nice to visit hometowns because usually that's how you get some of the background history on someone. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be, they came from Brazil or, whatever it might be. I went to Chicago.
Right.
I got to meet like all his friends that were DJs and go out to the house music clubs and get to see what was going on. Now, of course, this is like 12 years ago.
Gosh.
But it was fun. I loved going to Chicago.
Yeah,
I was like,
sure.
oh yeah, we get to go out, have a good old time, But yeah,
it's good. It's good. And I like showing Sharisse like where I came from and kind of what I had to go through and stuff like that because it's just different. Mm-hmm. People grow up different. People do different things. Mm-hmm. They don't experience these different things unless they've actually lived them themselves or they've seen them. And most of the stuff that I grew up doing, I don't think Sharisse has experienced before.
Example, come on, a big one's a horses.
Snowmobiling.
Horses.
I used to race and show horses.
Who would think John?
Yeah, I know.
Horses.
So, yeah. So,
that's cool.
Just a lot of different things, like where my old house was, where I grew up at. I got to show Sharisse that and stuff like that. Meet a variety of my different friends that she's never met before. I only get one that really comes down and visits me all the time. But, they're up there. And it was just cool, showing Sharisse like where I went to high school at and stuff like that. It was cool. It brings back memories for me. It was good to share those memories with Sharisse. I had good memories, thank God. And, it was just cool. So she learned a little bit more about me and where I came from, which increases that bond, that connection between you two. Now you know a little bit more about each other. When you know more about somebody, it usually increases the bond and tightens things.
I agree.
So it was really, really cool. So that was cool. So that's the first one. The first thing that we want to offer you guys for advice is make sure you guys are seeing the hometown or city where your loved one or partner came from. And that way you can see, their origins or kind of where they came from and maybe understand them a little bit better. Right? So that's just one. So the second one, and this is kind of where I dealt like, I was teeter-tottering like, these are things you should do, but this is something you should not do. Okay? And I see it all the time. And this is, don't compare your relationship to other people's relationships. Okay, I see it all the time. And I see a girl, I want my relationship to be like this, or I want it to be like that. You know, at that point, you're setting some expectations that could be very, very high that you might not hit goal-wise.
Right.
Right? Because if you see so, and different things work for different people. Your relationship and your boundaries or what you and your partner are okay with might be totally different from the couple that you're emulating. You want to be like. You know, and that's where it comes into play. Like, make your own path. Do your own thing. If you set your own boundaries with your partner, you have your own experience with your partner. You set what is okay with you and your partner.
That's what's your guys' thing.
Right. And comparing that to somebody else's relationship, like I said, you might be setting yourself up for failure because your partner might not be that person like that's in that relationship, might not act the same way, might not do the exact same things. And you have your mindset like, this is how I want her, this is how it's going to be. And when that person doesn't come through, now you're disappointed. Now there's there could be some friction between you guys. There might be some issues. So that's really where it's at. And another one that goes right along with this, don't compare your relationship to your last relationships.
Oh, that's an ugly one.
That's horrible.
And don't bring it up.
You bringing it up to the person is bad business.
Like, you know what? He used to get me these kind of chocolates.
Yep.
I like those chocolates way better.
Yep.
Do not do that.
My ex never did this to me. Like, how many times have you heard that?
Yeah.
Like, probably a lot,
I think
right?
everybody does it, right? At some point.
I think, it is a mistake that people do.
It's usually like your amateur mistakes. That's
It
usually
is.
like your after the honeymoon period, because everybody has honeymoon period.
Yep.
Me and John are lucky to have honeymoon period 12 years later, right? But, it's like kind of after that honeymoon period where I feel like it's that amateur hour where you're still learning each other and, you might reminisce about what happened in the past with maybe one of your other significant others or a past husband or past wife, that they did something that, let's just say this one doesn't do. You probably should don't bring it up. Maybe if you want it that bad, for instance, let's just say your last wife cooked all the time, right? And your new wife doesn't cook, right? You're going to want to make sure that you don't say anything about the last wife cooking and maybe nonchalantly say something about you wanting dinner every night.
Yep.
Just, hey, honey, I love your cooking. Can you cook again tomorrow and the next day and this weekend and the next day?
Absolutely. So there's ways to phrase things or to ask for things without making the comparison to the ex. And like I said, people are going to be more defensive when you say something like that. Like my ex, like, oh, well, why don't you go back to your ex then? Or, I'm not your ex. It is what it is. Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways to ask, like I said, if it's whether it's in the bedroom, it's out of the bedroom, the way your relationship is or is handled or certain things you guys say to each other. This is where you guys set the boundaries. And really, you guys should set that in the beginning of the relationship. Be honest, communicate. We say that a million times over and over, but communicate, what you want or what the boundaries are going to be or how you like things or what you expect.
Well, not even that, though. I mean, honestly, let's be realistic.
I mean, what I expected of Sharisse, I told her, listen, you're going to be my girl. You're going to cook and clean.
I didn't know how to cook, and I did.
So I had to teach her both because you got to be able to do it to be able to teach somebody, right?
It's the truth. I'm not lying.
So,
I didn't. I did not. But listen, I was saying, realistically, I really think that, even over time, that you build those boundaries together. Like some boundaries might change, some things might be, you might adjust things throughout the relationship. Yeah. So, that's a good way to just build it together. Sure. You're going to build it together on what is expected of each other and not have to, do any comparisons.
Issues are going to arise. The best way to do is communicate about the issues, get the issues cleared away, set up the boundaries, know where each other's head's at, get on the same page. I think that's another big mistake a lot of people don't do. They don't get on the same page or they lose the page they were on with their partner.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different subject, So at that point, you want to make sure you guys are communicating because that's key. And just make sure that you guys are not comparing your ex to your new relationship because
that's bad.
You obviously left the ex or the past relationship for some reason.
Right. Okay? Didn't work out, right? That's why they're their ex.
Exactly. So at that point, you're thinking through your head, you're like, all these bad things, but this one good thing this person did for me. All right, so at that point, listen, your new partner could be able to do those things for you if you ask properly or you set the boundaries or expectations that way. And that way, they know and they understand how you feel, and you guys are communicating like that, which is, like I said, it's key to any relationship, business relationship, right? Emotional love relationship. I mean, it's key to have. So just make sure you guys are following these little guidelines, because I promise you guys, it will save you a lot of hurt, a lot of time, and a lot of problems. Okay?
Think about it. You guys have it easy. Me and John have to create all these boundaries on so many different levels. Business, emotional, bedroom, outside, everything. You know, I got like 80 levels of different boundaries we had to create. I mean, it took us, a solid 12 years. I think we're pretty solid on this now. It's easy, it's cake, but it takes time.
Different experiences could bring up different questions, and those questions need to be answered by both of you guys coming together and coming up with a plan, basically, and that plan will set you guys up for relationship success.
Yes.
And that is key, relationship success, because that's what you guys are going for, right? That's what people get in relationships, or should get in relationships for. There shouldn't be any ulterior motives. It should be genuine. You guys should want to be together. Usually you guys are the happiest in the first couple months or year or whatever it is, and that kind of wears off. It hasn't worn off for us, so just keep it alive, man. And I'll come up with like 5 different ways to keep your relationship alive in the next coming episodes. Ooh. So you guys want to make sure you guys stay tuned every Sunday to Cupid's Corner with me and Sharisse, right? Or you guys can catch it on our Facebook. Make sure you guys are checking out Instagram. YouTube has all of these great videos and all of our different segments from our TV show. So make sure you guys are checking that out too.
Don't forget, if you want to feel better, look better, and perform better, then you got to call us, 727-389-3220. You can text us as well, and we'll catch you next Sunday.